Yes, we can start now.
Okay. May I take everybody's permission to begin today's special edition event?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So welcome to yet another event by Friends of Elephants. These are our associate partners and funding and technical support. So this is for the benefit of those who would be attending this event for the first time or watching it offline later. So Friends of Elephants is not an organization and is not proposing to become one. It is an informal group of people coming together with varied expertise concerned about elephants and other wildlife. This group is a forum for disseminating knowledge linked to elephants, other wildlife science, conservation, and welfare through art, culture, literature, movies, talks, and panel discussions. We have been conducting such events as offline events since April 2014 and from 2020 as online events. Our expectation is that people who have attended our events formally or informally participate or help in developing appropriate conservation and welfare measures for wildlife, including elephants. So today's event, by and large, would be a combination of talks and panelist
Can you
discussions.
please share the screen?
Okay, I'm sorry for that. All right. Yeah. Do you want me to repeat, Gagan, or we can continue?
Yeah, we can continue from here. Your screen is not
Now,
shared.
is it visible? Okay. Is it visible now? It might take a few seconds, I guess.
It says paused screen sharing. Sanjay has paused screen sharing.
Okay.
Can you maybe stop and then, there we go. Yep, now it is.
Thank you so much. So apologies for that. My slide had changed. So is it visible now?
Yes.
Schedule, it says, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yes. Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, today's is a special edition. So what really it makes it special? Because generally we have been following a format where we, since ever we switched from offline to online, and soon we have a plan to have maybe a hybrid setup. Since ever we shifted, we follow a format where we invite one expert who gives talk a certain topic and in a kind of a concise format. And that same topic is extended by inviting another expert and having a conversation, which is very, very informal, very, very simple to understand to the audience because this audience comes from the varied life, So what makes it special for today's event is we have multiple speakers and they are also touch basing the different aspects and hence the today's special edition title as Elephants of Thailand, which emphasizing on three approaches for human-elephant coexistence. I'm Sanjay Ajanikar. Good evening once again to everybody. I would be introducing today's event and as well as comparing it. And our first talk would be by Dr. Bhichet Noonto. The title would be Participatory Human-Elephant Coexistence in Thailand, Decentralization, Best Practices, and Youth Engagement. Followed by that, our next talk would be by another expert, Ms. Olivia Wilson-Holt and Dr. Shyam Kumar Thapa. The topic would be financial mechanisms to reduce the cost of human-wildlife conflict, learning from insurance and compensation schemes. So this is altogether a different aspect that they would be touch basing upon. It would be followed by another interesting talk by another set of experts that we have by Miss Juliana Masseloux and Dr. Bhichet Noonto. And the title would be Coffee to Coexistence, Nature-Based Solutions for Human-Elephant Conflict. So these would be three talks by our experts. And after end of these three talks, we'll have a Q&A session moderated by Ms. Monica Robel. So I would request all the participants to ask the questions using the chat window, and they can write the questions as and when they appear. You may not have to wait till the end of all three talks. You can keep pushing your questions through the chat, and you may indicate which expert you wish to ask that question for or point that question for. If the question comes as is, then we will take a decision to point it to a particular expert, or we can ask to all the experts based on the questions. So before we jump into the event, I would like to have some housekeeping rules where we would request everybody to keep themselves mute. By default, they would be on mute, but for certain reason, it's become unmute. And the second would be, we would like you to have use of the chat window for any kind of comments, question, queries, inputs, and not to unmute your audio or video. So let me jump into the event and introduce the event. Before we get into the event, a very quick introduction. I'm Sanjay Ajanikar, graduated as a chemical engineer and a postgraduate in marketing management. I have worked in my initial life in a corporate using research and program management. And the same common denominator, I'm continuing towards managing wildlife programs. I have been associated with Asian Nature Conservation Foundation, managing the research programs and administration in Northeastern India. I'm also associated with the Center for Ecological Sciences, Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, where I work on elephant collaring and human elephant mitigation programs in Odisha. As a part of a collaborative projects, we have collared 8 wild elephants in Assam, Tripura, and Odisha, the states of India, to monitor their movement and foraging patterns. So I would now would like to have introduction, a very quick introduction about our expert, Dr. Bhichet Noonto. The topic of the talk that he would be giving is participatory human-elephant coexistence in Thailand, decentralization, best practice, and youth engagement. Dr. Bhichet Noonto is a leading expert in human-elephant conflict management in Thailand and executive secretary of the Coexist Society. A member of IUCN SSC Asian Elephant Specialist Group, he has spent over 2 decades bridging ecological science and social systems. He serves as a spokesperson and committee member for the Thai Parliament's Special Committee on Human-Elephant Conflict Management. His research, funded by Darwin Initiative and TSRI, focuses on nature-based solutions and community-led coexistence. Beyond policy, Bhichet empowers communities and youth through initiatives like HECX Hackathon, integrating technology-driven solutions for sustainable human-elephant coexistence. So I would request Dr. Bhichet to take it over. So allowing me to stop sharing my screen, and you may please start sharing the screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. And if you wish to put it on a presentation mode, yes, it is also visible in the presentation mode.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Bhichet Noonto from Thailand, and I'm a secretary from Coexist Society, and also the member of IUCN Asian Elephant Specialist Group. So today I would like to present my research and our project with the SSL Thailand and Coexist Society together, and also Department of Wildlife and National Park of Thailand. So I would like to introduce you the head is human-elephant conflict in Thailand right now. So now the human-elephant conflict in Thailand is quite intense and growing. Yes. And from the statistic from DNP Thailand, human deaths from 2012 and 2026, you can see the data that human deaths is it's quite a high number, but I think it's not same as in India, but it's quite sensitive for Thai people and Thai society when the people die in the community. They create a lot of intense, and also the elephant also dead from the conflicts. Now is accumulated to 101 individuals in Thailand, and also affect to the communities, especially the community that grow the cassava and also pineapple nearby the protected area. You can see the number as 1,610 from DNP and also 554 case of property damage. So now in Thailand is quite HEC is quite keep increasing from the statistic from Ecosis 2017, 41 protected area that have HEC in Thailand, and now in this year 71 protected area that have HEC in Thailand right now, and the HEC occurrence is now occur across Thailand right now in 16 forest complex in Thailand. Uh, uh, but the human-elephant conflict hotspot is occur in 6 forest complex across Thailand. You can see that is the landscape is quite even if the protected area that have a large area is also have the HEC occur right now. So the driver in Thailand for HEC, you can see that we have main 4 drivers right now due to the forest loss and agricultural area expansion is quite we quite have lost forest area allow 13% from 2000, and elephant population keep increasing, and you can see that the statistics is 2004 we have 3,000 individuals of elephant, but now 2026 we have 4,000 and to 4,600 individuals around that, and the expansion of monoculture, monocrops that they expand around the protected area is such as cassava, pineapple, durian, and also corns, and some years that have drought, and elephant also expand their range into the communities. And from Thailand, now we also see some gap from our project. In this project, we see that when the elephant come out of the forest, they affect many communities. Right now, 42 from 65 provinces that affected from HTC, and also now you know that the elephant volunteer groups across Thailand is now around 500 volunteer network, but the active group is around 300 elephant volunteer network that work across Thailand, try to protect their community. And now the gap between the protected area and so the community also quite high because it have some the gap between the management between the community and also the protected areas. So from our project that we see some gap that is quite uh, limited capacity between stakeholder that can work together, and also now in Thailand they have no available national best practice. So our project try to assess HEC situation and also building capacity both in communities and also stakeholder outside the protected area. try to make them work together. And this is our approach that we try to engage every stakeholder in the HEC landscape. We start from the stakeholder engagement that we find the key stakeholder, which one is active and also want to engage in this process, and also set up the meeting in the landscape in each forest complex, in 6 forest complex. We start from context and uh, tool screening that which one is the best tool in landscape that you can you have implemented in the area, and also try to brainstorm about the lesson learned, and also about the effectiveness of the each communication tools. And we also use the capacity survey to find some gap that uh, which gap is crucial in each forest complex. So this is a result that we have the meeting in Dong Phaya Yen Khao Yai Forest Complex. You can see that we also have make a participatory mapping across the landscape, which location is elephants occur, and also the which one elephant response team working together in the landscape. So from this map, we also uh, find the location that which implementation implement in any area, and also uh, which area is the priority in the landscape. So we work across 3 years, yeah, that you can see that we try to engage more people, and also brainstorm from each stakeholder uh, which implementation they want to implement there, and also see some resource that they can share together. And in the final years, in the last in this year, we also set up the elephant committee in the landscape to working together. So this is another result that you can see that we also use the distribution of HEC to make a list map, so they can priority the implementation in the landscape. And we get the data about the uh, damage plants in the landscape, which is affected plantation in the landscape. And we also try to set up the monitoring system with the community that they can working together, because it's quite a large landscape. So we work with the ranger right now to launch the application in Dong Phaya Yen Khao Yai, especially in Khao Yai National Park, to collect the data and try to monitoring any implementation in landscape together. So another outcome that we think is also benefit in HEC's community. I think it's not only human and elephant conflict right now. In Thailand right now, it's also occur about human conflicts, and it's quite intense in Khao Yai and also Eastern Forest Complex. You can see that we try to have some peace talk that talk with the data first, and also try to have the session to let them to talk about their feelings that together, and also find a common ground together, which area that they want to manage the elephant together. And we finally set up the agreement on peaceful HEC mitigation that uh, try not to use the wiring method toward the elephant, and also respect each group of the people in Khao Yai, and also make an understanding together that we try to communicate clearly and working together before making a decision, and try to make a common meeting together every years conclude about the lesson learned and also which mitigation is best in the landscape. And another forest landscape in East, we also make a participatory mapping. But another progress that we can achieve in this landscape, because the committee try to monitoring by themselves and collect the data. Yeah, you can see that this is the data from the villager and also the EIU group that pinpoint the location of the elephant. So in 2024 to 2025, we also have the meeting with also the the parliament representative and also Department of Wildlife and also politician in the East, and the local people want to manage the elephant by themselves. It's like the committee led. So we propose to also the humanitarian committee and also DNP that we want to decentralize the power to manage the elephant by local community, not only the central government. So in another year, they get this proposed to declare as a law, as the declaration that the local government have the law to protect to manage the HEC, working together with the DNP, and this achievement is finally declared in Thailand right now. So this is the example that we also get this information to the government that elephant the villager want to manage uh, which scenario they want to manage the elephant in the landscape. So they also vote to have the elephant council that they want to manage the elephant with the resource and policy belong to the local, not only the central government. And South Webcom, we also make a participatory mapping and set up the elephant committee together, train the ranger, and also facilitate the elephant committee to working together across the landscape. So we also get the data and also the implementation in the landscape. We start from the training ranger and also EAU team to working together and collect the data together. So the case study from South Webcom, we also find some challenge because in some area, that they don't want to share the data together between the government and also the local EAU team. This is also make some risk to EAU team if they don't know about the elephant presence in any landscape in any area. They will face the risk when they want to go into the area. So from our perspective, our lesson from this project that we think that we should have some mechanism and set up some meeting that to facilitate the data sharing system and cooperation between the community and government. But in some area in South Vietnam, after the decentralization, it is a good side that they try to working together between the local government and also protected area. This is a Salak Park Wildlife Sanctuary. They try to working to co-management to create the semi-permanent fence together, start from surveying together and writing the proposal together to get the budget from the central government. And this is good progress right now because they get the budget to create the semi-permanent fence together and managing the semi-permanent fence together. From actually we work across 6 forest complex and each forest complex have their own management and context that they have it have the different capacity, but the basic need is safety for people that when we access the which implementation it fit that in each landscape. Uh, so most of the stakeholder and local government want to increase the innovative methods, such as using thermal drone to detect the elephant in nighttime, or using the early warning camera with the AI technology that most of the area try to implement this method right now. And we found that a major actor outside the protected area in Thailand right now is elephant response team and local government and also local NGO, because from the result from the decentralization right now, local government can uh, uh, have their own direction right now to manage the elephant. So from six forest complex, we when we get the data and lesson learned from each forest complex, we try to writing the manual. As you can see that in Eastern Forest Complex right now they use early warning camera with the AI system. This is a case study from uh, Chantaburi province, Eastern Forest Complex. We also try to extract the lesson learned and also step by step to establish the early warning AI camera. And it is good and it's help a lot for community to protect the plantation and also protect the elephant before they go into the communities. Uh, for Thai society right now, we also have Thai National Elephant Day, and we set up the event. It's quite a big event because every stakeholders, NGOs, politicians, and also multi-stakeholder from six forest landscape join together to share the lesson learned in each year and experience, and also uh, make an agreement in some issue in each year, such as in these years we try to move forward on community safety because right now the safety is very important for Thai people. So we also use this the conclusion from this meeting to propose to the government. And another one is the new one in this year that we also want to have some new idea from the youth, from the new generation. So we set up the hackathon. We open all from university student and high school student to pitch the idea in Thai National Day. So we get the three winners team, and these three winner teams will develop their own prototype and working together with the local people and ranger in any landscape that they want to develop the prototype with the ranger. So so now they like the network of the new generation to talk about human elephant coexistence right now, and in the next few years we try to try to empower them to get the new idea and also implement any innovation that they want to test in the landscape. So from our project that we get some key insights that if we open the committee to participate in this program, we can get the data in the landscape and reduce the cost and also make the effectiveness of the implementation. And the data access and transparency is very very critical in Thai society because it's also about trust and also about the safety. So in the next few years, I think this issue is very important in Thai society. And another one, after the decentralization, even if they have the power, the role, they need the resource uh, to make a progress in the landscape. So the decentralization, they after this, local government have the plan, and also after they have a plan, they will get the budget from the central government to manage the elephant in the local area. And another one is very, very important in Thailand right now, and all stakeholders agree together that the building capacity is very important, especially the local government, elephant response team, and also uh, the new generation together, that they want to building capacity to make a progress about the human-elephant conflict management in Thailand. So thank you, every stakeholder and our partners that is Ecoexist and also Success Thailand, and also thank you about the financial support from Darwin Initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhichet. So if is visible, Gagan?
Yes, visible.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bhichet. And if I have to just put it in one line, I would say that your presentation and your talk, especially, was very detailed, methodical, and a real sense of long-term program. So I'm sure the audience would have also felt the same. So I would thank you so much for sharing your experience with the audience. And now we would move to our second talk by Ms. Olivia Wilson-Holt and Dr. Shyam Kumar Thapa. The title is Financial Mechanism to Reduce the Cost of Human-Wildlife Conflict, Learning from Insurance and Compensation Scheme. I'm very, very keen to see what is both of them would be talking. So handing over the forum to both of you, please allow me to stop my sharing screen option, and I would invite you to start sharing your screen.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we could see your screen.
Brilliant. Can you see it in presentation mode?
It is absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for having us here today, and good afternoon to everyone on the call. So as Sanjay said, I'm here with my colleague Shyam from Zoological Society of London, and we're here today to talk to you about financial mechanisms to reduce the costs of human-wildlife conflict, learning from insurance and compensation schemes. And my name is Olivia Wilson-Holt, and I work as Human-Wildlife Coexistence Projects Manager based out of our London headquarters. Shyam,
may I interrupt you for a second, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, and I really apologize. I think I was so excited to see what is coming with the financial implication. I am totally missed out to introduce both of you. Apologies. Would you mind? I'm sharing the stop sharing the screen, and I can take it over quickly. Introduce both of you. Yes. So our second speaker, Ms. Olivia Wilson-Holt, known as Liv, works in Zoological Survey of London's Conservation and Policy Directorate as a Human-Wildlife Coexistence Projects Manager, supporting country teams in Africa and Asia with the project implementation, strategy, and design on human-wildlife conflict and coexistence themes, and promoting best practice measures and learning. Liv is with a master's in conservation science and as a member of the IUCN Sustainable Use and Livelihood Specialist Group. Liv has spent the last 7 years in NGO roles, working with Africa, Asia, and Latin America teams of civil society organizations and researchers, building knowledge of and applying community-focused, locally appropriate interventions to tackle illegal wildlife trade, mitigate human-wildlife conflict, and reduce unsustainable use of natural resources. So are your talk is combined so that I can
Yes.
immediately
Yes.
use other speaker, or shall I do it later?
No, now would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So our third speaker, an expert, would be Dr. Shyam Thapa. He's a conservation professional based in Kathmandu, currently serving as a program manager at Zoological Society of London, Nepal office. He works at the intersection of biodiversity conservation, community engagement, and human-wildlife coexistence. With a focus on evidence-based wildlife habitat management and human-wildlife conflict mitigation in key landscapes, he holds a PhD in subtropical grassland ecology, focusing on grassland herbivore interactions. He has extensive experience in designing and implementing field-based conservation projects, ecological and socio-economic research, policy support, and stakeholder coordination. His work also includes capacity building and integrating community perspectives, such as citizen science approaches into conservation strategies. His broader interests include landscape-level habitat restoration, livelihood improvement, and ensuring the long-term sustainability of conservation interventions through science-driven and participatory approach. So I'm just stopping my screen, and I would request both of you to take over. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sanjay.
I could see the screen, and it's
Perfect. Thank you so much. So just before we begin, I just wanted to introduce Zoological Society of London, in case some of you are not familiar with who we are and the work that we do. So ZSL is an international conservation charity driven by science, and we've been working for wildlife for 200 years. And through our innovative conservation work in the field, which is primarily focused across sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, we're passionate advocates for wildlife and work to help recover it by focusing on key conservation challenges, such as human-wildlife conflict and illegal wildlife trade. And as part of this, ZSL runs a human-wildlife coexistence community of practice, where we invite internal and external speakers to present on a wide number of themes related to human-wildlife conflict and coexistence, and where we also help our project teams brainstorm ideas, challenges, and solutions. So today, Shyam and I are going to provide an overview of insurance or compensation schemes to help mitigate human-wildlife conflict. We'll talk about some of the key challenges that these approaches typically face, as well as what the key criteria for success are for successful schemes. Shyam is then going to talk about a pilot scheme that we're currently implementing through one of our projects in Nepal, before finishing off with some lessons learned and also some next steps. So we know that human-wildlife conflict is a global challenge that disproportionately affects rural smallholder and pastoral communities. And we also know that approaches to reduce human-wildlife conflict and promote coexistence generally include a broad range of solutions, but that these have varying feasibility and effectiveness across contexts. And whilst these approaches traditionally include preventative measures such as fences and early warning systems, another common approach is to mitigate the impact of conflict once it occurs, such as through payments for losses. And these payments are typically implemented by governments as a relief or compensation scheme, with the purpose of offsetting the financial costs of human-wildlife conflict, discouraging retaliatory killing, and reducing negative attitudes to conservation and wildlife. So more recently, insurance schemes have been introduced as an alternative to compensation schemes, and these share many of the same basic components, But generally, insurance is defined as payments reimbursing individuals for loss of livestock, crops, property, or human injury or death, either fully or partially funded by an external agency. Whereas insurance is defined as payouts tied to conflict incidents and funded at least partially through premium or membership payments that are made by policyholders before incidents occur, and with an agreement that any specified damages will be paid for by an insurer should these occur. And typically, payouts are conditional on certain risk mitigation practices. And these approaches, but particularly compensation, have been widely documented as a tool to mitigate the economic impact of human-wildlife conflict on rural communities, but there still remains some uncertainty about their effectiveness. So, for example, these schemes typically face several challenges. So compensation schemes often suffer from insufficient funds, slow verification and payouts, and fraudulent claims. And additionally, they risk introducing moral hazard. So, for example, where farmers deliberately leave their property and crops unprotected because the payouts are not tied to risk management. And this can result in increased human-wildlife conflict levels. Now, insurance is a growing alternative to compensation schemes, and it can potentially some of these challenges. However, these schemes also face issues of their own and require specific conditions to be met for successful adoption and implementation. And this includes sufficient funds, particularly where farmers cannot afford premiums, as is largely the case, and also effective risk management to facilitate buy-in from government and insurance companies. So to understand more about these approaches and also the challenges that they face, and also how to potentially overcome these challenges, ZSL recently led 3 collaborative and interactive discussions with 29 experts who have experience in designing, implementing, or managing compensation or insurance schemes for human-wildlife conflict. And these discussions focused on sharing experience from current schemes, reviewing both old and new initiatives, validating and updating theory for success, and sharing learning challenges for the implementation of effective, equitable, and sustainable insurance schemes for human-wildlife conflict. And participants were also invited to provide case studies of schemes in development or currently being piloted, as well as those that have been previously unsuccessful, to provide examples of specific challenges. And the output from these sessions is going to be a paper that's titled Leveraging Insurance Approaches to Promote Human-Wildlife Coexistence, Learning from Practitioners. And this includes a multi-country review of past and current insurance or compensation schemes. And this paper is currently in the final stages of completion, and we hope to publish it no later than the end of April. So a key focus of the interactive discussions we held was building on previous work that had been led by IIED and AB Entheos, and as well as others, to refine a key list of criteria for successful insurance or compensation schemes for human-wildlife conflict. So the first criteria is collaborative product design. So here, the design and costing of an insurance scheme should accurately reflect market demand, human-wildlife conflict data, and community needs. And this means that all relevant stakeholders, so including insurance companies, government agencies, local communities, or conservation NGOs, should be involved in the planning, design, and premium costing process. The second criteria is ensuring we have sufficient finance to develop a business case. So the insurance scheme must be designed in a way that is financially attractive to insurance companies. And in most cases, the cost of premiums for human-wildlife conflict insurance cannot be afforded by the low-income communities who typically bear the brunt of damage. And this means that government buy-in may be necessary to help co-finance premiums, or otherwise potential co-financing from the private sector or international aid bodies explored. Next, we have clear guidelines and regulatory oversight. So schemes should have clear guidelines on pricing and accessing the scheme to ensure transparency and accountability for all stakeholders and to help manage expectations. Next up is beneficiary trust and awareness. So the potential beneficiaries of new schemes may not be willing to engage with insurance and may be unfamiliar with the concept of insurance and claims mechanisms, particularly in places where insurance penetration and outreach is limited. And this means that preliminary and ongoing engagement is therefore needed to understand both community perceptions, but also their willingness to either participate in or pay for premiums, and ultimately to build trust in the scheme. Next, we have quick and accurate verification of damage, and this is a common challenge with compensation schemes. And ideally, verification should occur promptly within 24 to 48 hours by trusted verification officers who've been trained in species identification and damage reporting, as well as the de-escalation of social conflicts that can occur between different groups as a result of human-wildlife conflict. So prompt and fair payment. So payout amount should be mutually agreed through participatory engagement with local communities and properly informed by human-wildlife conflict data and actuarial calculations. And then lastly, we have risk mitigation and monitoring. So insurance payouts are normally contingent on certain risk mitigation practices. And where insurance premiums are purchased by the government, for example, risk mitigation must either be a criteria for payouts, or the government may be responsible for reducing risks by also investing in effective human-wildlife conflict mitigation strategies. And in addition, risk must be continuously monitored to be able to accurately forecast financing needs and also identify priority areas for risk management and mitigation in the future. So I'm now going to pass over to Shyam to talk about a pilot insurance scheme that is currently being implemented through one of our projects in Nepal.
Thank you, Olivia. I'll request you to help me for slide transition as well. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sri Sanjay sir and Monica, for organizing this important talk. Although the talk is focused on elephants of Thailand, here I'm highlighting on the financial mechanism that are being implemented and piloted for human-wildlife coexistence in Nepal. Like Olivia said, we have two mechanisms. One is compensation, we call it relief here in Nepal, and another is insurance. Government of Nepal has established a formal relief mechanism to support communities affected by human-wildlife conflict. This includes compensation for damage to crop, livestock, property, and human injury and death. However, due to time-consuming process, payback delay, and insufficient fund, like Olivia shared to you earlier, this relief mechanism is not so popular in Nepal, especially with the communities living adjacent to the forest. So, and again, government has also insurance mechanism, and government has been providing subsidies up to 80% of insurance premium for livestock and crop insurance at the household level. These insurance schemes are basically to cover the risks from natural disasters like flood, drought, fire, disease, and wildlife, and later on are incorporated into that framework. But these insurance schemes are not specific to human-wildlife conflict or damage caused by wildlife. And another thing is that for crop insurance, because of some practicalities, these crop insurance schemes are not getting popularity in Nepal because of small land holding and multiple crops being cultivated in the same small area. So because of these complexities, we, JRSN Nepal, together with government and insurance companies, tried to come up with specific insurance schemes that is dedicated to human-wildlife conflict or damage caused by wildlife. And through repeated interactions with insurance companies and government, we came up with a concept of group insurance, where an entire settlement or entire households within a particular administrative zone will be covered by the scheme. Next slide, please. So here I would like to highlight on the process that we followed, because like Olivia suggested, there are a lot of criteria that need to be fulfilled to make any insurance scheme or financing schemes be successful or be internalized by the communities. So initially, because of those lot of issues and challenges, we began to identify first the concept, and then with interaction with insurance companies, they suggested us to go in a group insurance, where we can, like I said, where we can cover entire settlement or administrative boundary. And then after conceptualization, then we again had a very thorough discussion with field stakeholders, communities. We did a lot of consultation with the community, local community institutions, focus group discussion with specific community members, indigenous people, women, and other community forest users groups to assess their willingness and their knowledge on insurance and their motivation to enter into the insurance scheme. Then next slide, please. Then after that, we also did some socioeconomic survey at a household level to collect information on household information like land holdings and then income and then type of damage being faced by the households in a particular settlements that we identified for piloting this insurance scheme, and then more importantly to assess the economic valuation of damage caused by wildlife. And then after collecting these data, we again have a thorough discussion with insurance companies uh, to discuss again on and to develop specific insurance schemes, because it is quite important. I would like to highlight here that because these insurance companies, initially we discuss with a lot of insurance companies, but later on only one insurance company agreed to move forward with us to do a pilot for this mechanism, because because of lot of things that insurance companies require to develop schemes, like for example economic valuation of the damage. They want to have an actual exact realistic valuation of the damage caused by the wildlife, if you are going for crop or livestock or property. So initially, what we did is, I forgot to mention here, what we did is we selected three sites based on the historic map of human-wildlife conflict hotspots. We selected high conflict zone, medium conflict zone, and low conflict zone. In that, we did a lot of consultation, a socioeconomic survey, and then we again discussed with insurance companies to develop schemes. And later on, what we decided that because of some time availability and resources, we decided to pilot this public liability insurance, a group insurance mechanism in a high conflict zone. And in that case, we together with insurance companies decided a lot of mechanism like the payment mechanism, the validation mechanism, the premium amount that need to be paid for entire settlement, and the types of crops that is being insured by this scheme. Once the insurance company agreed and developed an insurance scheme, then you again go back to the communities, discuss all the provisions in that scheme, and then aware community people about the scheme as well. And then finally, we work as a facilitator to formally sign an agreement between insurance companies and a local institution. We put forward this local institution because these local community institutions are the one who will be responsible to collect the information of the damage caused by wildlife on the crops and then report to the insurance companies, and they will work as a mediator. We, ZSL, as will provide technical backstopping for record keeping, and also work as a facilitator to bridge a gap between insurance companies and then the local institution. Once the agreement is signed between local institution and insurance companies, we again develop some brochures, leaflets to aware each individual who are within these schemes, to aware them on the process. Together with the insurance company agent, we again went with to the field, to the community, and provide a lot of information on this specific public liability insurance schemes to the local communities. And again, with repeated interaction with buffer zone or local institution, we request them to allocate one dedicated person to keep a record, to facilitate households and to further facilitate the process of claim and to keep the record. And this is still in a pilot phase, and we are still collecting information. If something happens, then how the process would be, how quickly the claim process will be made, how the insurance companies will verify or validate the claim. That yet to be documented. But the initial stage, like Liv suggested, there are a lot of criteria which we try to cover during this entire process. Next slide, please. So during this process, we had challenges as well, and we also had a lesson. Initially, when we went with the communities to discuss on these insurance schemes, though the government is providing 80% subsidy on the premium on the livestock insurance, local communities are not very much aware on the existing insurance scheme. And this type of insurance that we are piloting is quite new. So initially, their willingness, motivation was quite low, and we had to do a repeated interaction awareness campaign together with insurance companies to build their motivation and to build their confidence to come into that insurance scheme. And like I said, insurance companies are also quite reluctant to join hands with the insurance schemes, especially in high human wildlife conflict zone, because of high risk factor. They are not willing to do insurance in such particular areas. And again, one of the important aspect we realize, we learn, is that we do not have comprehensive human wildlife conflict database for economic valuation, because this is very crucial for insurance companies to develop premium, to develop a payment process, and to assess the financial risks that is being taken by the companies. So that might be the reason why insurance companies are not willing to go into human wildlife conflict insurance scheme, especially in high human wildlife conflict zone, because we don't have very comprehensive human wildlife conflict data. And another thing is that um, uh, this is still in a piloting phase. So based on the criteria that Leaves shared, we still need yet to wait for a time to assess the effectiveness of these schemes. And then another thing is that uh, one of the important aspect is that it's now we are covering entire settlement, and then later on we realize that at least we should have some condition that these households, uh, if we put some condition, at least these households should do something to protect their crop, like guarding their crops or doing some fencing to protect their crops, would be kind of conditionalities that helps to further strengthen these insurance schemes. And another important aspect is that sustainability of the scheme, because this is still piloting. In a piloting phase, we are uh, coordinating with local governments, municipalities, to and sharing these schemes to internalize, but to make them internalize in their local, in their regular annual planning and budgeting. And also we are having discussion with the central level government, especially Department of National Parks, sharing these schemes. And also later on, we are thinking to provide some policy recommendation so that our government can have a transition from a relief mechanism or compensation mechanism to insurance mechanism. That's our ultimate goal of this pilot. Thank you, and back to Olivia.
Thanks so much, Shyam. So just to wrap up with some lessons learned. So firstly, I think it's important to say that from much of the learning and discussions that we've had and that arose during the development of the paper that I mentioned, there is still a lack of clarity over whether insurance can currently offer a more effective method of offsetting the costs of human wildlife conflict compared to compensation. But there are some really important other lessons to consider. And Shyam has obviously touched on quite a lot of those. And this is a need to ensure that schemes promote community ownership to foster trust and improve outcomes, as well as leveraging the expertise of insurance companies to effectively and equitably manage and verify claims. But also government buy-in has been identified as a key factor for success, and pilot schemes have shown to be really instrumental for providing proof of concept for schemes. Importantly, insurance schemes should also be co-designed with the needs and priorities of all relevant stakeholders, and these will be different based on the different stakeholder. So, for example, insurance companies might want to see a sound business model, governments might want to see schemes that are cost effective, and communities might want to see schemes that achieve fair and timely payouts, and that also reflect the realities of living next to wildlife. And lastly, data has been shown to be really important for accurately estimating costs of a scheme, setting premium levels and securing sufficient funds where needed. And whilst human-wildlife conflict data will ideally cover up to 10 years, some schemes have been able to rely on data from the past 2 to 3 years. But all schemes should aim to standardise data collection to help inform the design and financing, and also support ongoing and future human-wildlife conflict monitoring so that schemes can adapt to changing conditions. And we also found that some key challenges remain, and these include achieving financial sustainability, so where schemes are financially viable for all different stakeholders who are involved, and also a remaining challenge is avoiding moral hazard. So what is the way forward? So there is evidence to show that well-designed insurance schemes can potentially reduce the socioeconomic burden of human-wildlife conflict, improve tolerance for wildlife, and support conservation goals more broadly. But realising this potential requires sustained political commitment, cross-sector collaboration, and a clear recognition that rural communities should not bear the cost of global conservation priorities alone. And this means that human-wildlife conflict insurance schemes should be viewed as one component of an integrated coexistence strategy rather than as a solution. And then just lastly, we're really keen to keep learning about this topic and would love to hear from you. So if you have an experience or lessons to share related to human-wildlife conflict, compensation, or insurance, please do reach out to myself or Juliana. Or if you'd like to know more about the paper that I mentioned earlier, then please let us know and we would be happy to share more details. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Olivia and Dr. Shyam Kumar. I am sharing my screen. And while you're going through the presentation and talk, what I've really written down, what I could see, there were a lot of deliberations. I'm sure there must be many brainstorming sessions that you and all the team members and other stakeholders would have had. And I would say excellent use of system designs, while designing the POC, which is proof of concept. And I would say this is an excellent case for implementing pilot, I must say. So thank you for this very interesting pilot that you have shared and the learning that you have shared, with the audiences. And I'm excited to, share the questions that our a team of volunteers have put together. So we can hold on those questions, and I would like to request audiences also to put their questions forward from both the talks. And we will move to the a third talk by Ms. Juliana Masseloux and Dr. Bhichet Noonto. This talk title is Coffee to Coexistence, Nature-Based Solutions for Human-Elephant Conflict. So over to Ms. Juliana and Dr. Bhichet. I am, before handing over this screen, I would like to quickly introduce both of our speakers. So Ms. Juliana is the program coordinator and monitoring and evaluation specialist for Zoological Society of London, Thailand. She has extensive experience planning, implementing, and monitoring short and long-term ecological research and conservation projects with diverse taxa across Africa and Southeast Asia. Under ZSL, she has supported various projects on human-elephant conflict, illegal wildlife trade, and sustainable livelihoods. Her expertise lies in evidence-based strategic planning and adaptive management, including participatory stakeholder engagement and socio-ecological research. So over to Ms. Juliana, and I'm
Thanks so much,
stopping.
Sanjay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, very
Okay,
much loud and
fantastic.
clear.
I will share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen all right?
Yes, it's come up very well.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you much. Thank you so much again, Sanjay, for having us today. And I look forward to chatting more after the talk and answering any questions, sharing knowledge. I'd love to hear more about, whether agroforestry or alternative crops has been trialed much in other countries in Asia and South Asia. So, I really hope this is kind of a lessons learned context. So to start with, this project was conducted and implemented in collaboration between Ecoexist Society and ZSL with financial support from the Darwin Initiative. And so this was part of a 3-year long-term project. And so now we've kind of finished up the project, and so we have some, pretty promising results that we'd like to share, as well as, some guidance for moving forward with this project in the future. So Bhichet, I think, covered generally the overall challenge in Thailand with human-elephant conflict, and I think it is very similar to what's happening across the board in elephant range states. However, we're going to hone down a little bit here into our specific landscape for where we implemented this project, which is Kanchanaburi province. This province holds an estimated 600 to 1,000 wild elephants, which is approximately 20% of the national population of wild elephants in Thailand. This population is estimated to be growing, according to the Department of National Parks. And with that, we're also seeing more elephant incursions outside of protected areas, outside of the forest, damaging crops, eating predominantly cash crops like sugarcane, corn, cassava. These are kind of the predominant cash monocrops in the landscape that are being grown right on the edges of the protected areas. And so, of course, this has resulted in a lot of conflict between people and wildlife, increased encounters between people and elephants, which ultimately results in deaths of both humans and elephants, as well as affecting, of course, the income of the local farmers and livelihoods. So from over 360 household surveys that we conducted within the landscape, there was an average of 35 to 50% crop losses from elephant damage alone, resulting in 42 to 90,000 baht of annual losses per household, which is about 17 to 60% of their income. So the damage from elephants to these livelihoods, to these HEC-afflicted households, is quite significant. And most of this damage is not covered under existing compensation schemes. And that's a whole other challenge that I think Bhichet mentioned, that the compensation schemes here have very little penetration and success in this landscape. So, of course, with these pretty extreme challenges, you get retaliatory killings, you get kind of this reduced support for conservation and for elephants in the landscape. So to give a little bit more of an overview of the landscape that I'm talking about, this is Kanchanaburi province. This is a province that makes up a good portion of the Western Forest Complex landscape, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that covers 4 different biomes and actually borders Myanmar as well. So you're getting a lot of transboundary wildlife movement. And it has, as I mentioned, the largest elephant population in mainland Southeast Asia, as well as a key stronghold site for tiger, gaur, banteng, and pangolin. So this landscape, these protected areas, are very important ecologically and are also a key kind of a watershed landscape as well. So important for agriculture. There's a large dam in the area. And so you have a lot of forests, but many of them are also fragmented. So a lot of these protected areas are fragmented, bisected by these valleys in which you have a lot of agricultural development, villages. And so these areas end up becoming hotspots for human-elephant conflict. So our approach to trying to address part of this conflict is applied kind of within this larger, wide-scale approach that Bhichet has covered before, right? Looking at Bhichet and Olivia actually looking not only at the actual tools that we're implementing, the stakeholders that we're engaging, and the financial mechanisms, but also thinking at the landscape scale. You know, the problem is going to continue if we don't address those drivers. And the main drivers is this landscape degradation and replacement with these monocrop cash crops that elephants really like to eat, right? So this is kind of the key challenge, the driver of conflict that we need to address, not just by implementing mitigation tools, but also by trying to shift how the landscape is being cultivated in historical elephant habitat and in elephant corridors. So kind of our overarching goals is to replace some of this cash crop monoculture with shade-grown agroforestry, which ideally would also raise incomes for the local farmers, restore canopy cover on degraded farmland, which also then creates wildlife corridors, not just for elephants, but for other wildlife as well. We aim to build community cooperatives that are able to operate independently after grant funding ends. So building not only capacity, but also governance and business management skills, things like that. And of course, we aim to increase resilience to both climate change and human-elephant conflict by diversifying livelihoods, diversifying crops, and ensuring that these farmers are more resilient to income shocks. So the way that we did that is we approached this in many different ways. The early stages were more desk-based research. This was financed and supported by the WWF Accelerator grant, which some of you may be familiar with. They provide technical and financial assistance for kind of feasibility assessments. So this enabled us to kind of create these agroclimatic maps, identify climate resilient crops and site suitability mapping, as well as doing some soil testing at different sites across Kanchanaburi to assess the feasibility of actually piloting agroforestry demonstration plots. We then also conducted participatory focus group discussions in 17 communities with over 360 participants to better understand the agricultural socioeconomics and practices and to identify suitable crops and available markets. So ensuring that we weren't just selecting crops that were suitable for the climate, but also that were suitable given what the farmers had the capacity to implement and also what markets were available in the landscape. And then finally, we constructed some financial models to ensure that these agroforestry models were income generating and competitive with existing cash crop models so that they would be more incentivizing for the local farmers. So ultimately, we ended up kind of clustering our data and our recommendations for the site suitability assessment in 3 different clusters. One is this eastern side of Kanchanaburi, which is low altitude, low rainfall. The second cluster, kind of around the center, more in the highlands, in the mountains, is characterized by high altitude and high rainfall. And then the third area was kind of more on the western side and is more medium to high altitude and still characterized by high rainfall as well. And so this is just an example of one of the financial models that we constructed, where you can see kind of the comparison of the income and profitability of cassava monocrops versus coffee. And so one thing to keep of note here is that cassava, which is the green line, has more income stability from kind of the first year. So you're making a pretty significant income from the get-go because it's an annual crop. You can harvest it every year. Whereas something like coffee, when you plant it, you have to wait approximately 6 to 7 years before you can actually start cultivating. So there is this period in which the farmers, if they did replace part of their land with coffee, they would not be making an income from that land, right? So this was something really important we had to consider before asking these farmers to make this change. So all of this information essentially was used to then identify what crops, and what species were the most suitable to plant in the different landscapes, based on kind of the soil type, drought tolerance, soil pH, and kind of the soil amendments that were needed. So for example, in kind of the low altitude, low rainfall areas, looking at cocoa, teak, turmeric, crops that were more drought tolerant, we looked at pomelo, citruses, species that essentially would do better in kind of drier, warmer climates, because this part of Kanchanaburi is characterized by kind of that low rainfall, versus in the high altitude, high rainfall areas, you can have much more diverse crops. You can grow coffee, you can grow teak, ginger, onion. So there's and then various different grasses that could be used to prevent soil erosion, and cover crops as well. So essentially, we were able to then identify different species for different landscapes, and we developed kind of these site suitability or crop suitability indexes that the farmers can access via the HEVN website, and kind of look at what is the feasibility or what is the suitability of different crops for their particular landscape, their particular community. And so as an example of kind of our approach to actually implementing these agroforestry farms, as you know, we mentioned that there's this issue of farmers not being able to make an income immediately if they change the landscape from cash monocrops like cassava to coffee agroforestry. So ideally, we would start by reducing the area devoted just to cassava and replacing it with high quality coffee grown in small areas, along with these faster growing crops that can be sold, either annually or even multiple times a year, while waiting for the coffee to ripen. So these could be things like pepper, ginger, konjac, other of these fast growing species. And these can be sold either to local markets or to other specialty markets. And then finally, planting tall trees, which can generate potentially some small carbon income, and also providing some habitat for elephants to move through. And especially if implemented with mitigation tools, reducing conflict within the actual farm area. And of course, this is just an example for coffee agroforestry. and other landscapes where coffee is potentially not applicable, it would look slightly different. So ultimately, we were able to then support 50 households within 2 registered cooperatives that operate independently, and into growing or improving their coffee growing processes. And we have approximately 9 households so far that have achieved an 82 to 84 SCA score. So this is essentially a fine Robusta standard. And by meeting this standard for coffee production, they're able to acquire a coffee price premium of, with some farmers selling their coffee for up to 300% more than the standard commercial coffee price that they would get from like the Nestle factory that's also in this landscape. And we're also very excited that over half of the members are women, with about 40% of women of the leadership positions also being occupied by women. So there's a lot of kind of JEDC components that have gone into this project as well to ensure women are also supported and active in these cooperatives. And so we just actually completed our well-being and capacity post-project surveys, where we were able to compare pre and post capacity and well-being. So for example, the median increase in income reported by coffee growing households was 122%. So this is kind of across all the households, not just the fine grade coffee households. Well, specifically those from coffee. which includes both, I believe, the fine grade coffee and commercial grade coffee. Approximately there was 100%, so almost a doubling of increase in capacity for high quality coffee production compared to before the project, as well as a 38% increase in well-being. And this was measured through income stability, community cohesion, and governance, so ability to contribute to decision making. And when we asked the farmers what the most valuable reported benefits from participating in this project was, 78% of the survey respondents reported that one of the key benefits was that they learned new skills that they were able to then use to increase their income, or to that they felt was valuable for them. 50% reported being able to sell their coffee for higher prices. And then 50% were also really pleased by the opportunity to participate in exchange visits to other farms and cooperatives. So these were some of kind of the major outcomes from the community engagement component. And so now I'll actually pass on to Bhichet to talk a little bit more about the Changyim standards and the Changyim Coffee Community Enterprise.
So, so as Juliana presented, that we try to diversify the income and also try to living elephant in harmony way, in peaceful way. So we gather with the community to talk about how we try to make this Changyim or smiling coffee that can conserve and live with elephants. So we brainstorm with the committee that we get the main criteria, that the first one to try to not use the violent method toward the elephant. Like in the past time, they use gun to shoot to shot at the elephant, and sometimes they throw the firecracker, explosive firecracker toward directly to the elephant in some community in the landscape. So the committee agree that if we want to live with elephant in peaceful way, so the first one do no harm toward the elephant. So in a network of farmers that register in Changyim standard, they don't use the violent method. And another one, if they join together, is we mark as in this group, we try to diversify the crop to reduce the human-elephant conflict in the landscape, because as we survey and the committee also know about if they plant the monocrop or high calorie fruit plant, they will attract the elephant in the committee. So they also learn by themselves that if they plant mixed crop or many species in the landscape, it can reduce the head disease frequency in the community. So this is the second criteria that they agree on criteria. And they also think about that if we want the consumer save and also buy in the long term, they aim to reduce the chemical pesticide use in the product, and also aim high about the organic standard, because now in Thailand they all organic standard also farmers, so they also like to change from chemical pesticides farm to more organic standard in coffee and agroforestry. And the last one is if they want to sell in the long term, the product should have a high quality so they can increase the price in the market. So in Changyim standard, the good quality of coffee and good quality of the product from agroforestry should have good practice agriculture that guaranteed by government, and also have the high standard about the specialty coffee from specialties Thai Coffee Society. Yes, the next one, please, Juliana. But the community also still have challenge because agroforestry is very new concept in some communities, and they also have risks because some farmers have they have no money to change in the transition from monocrop to agroforestry, and this is also the list that the government or the supporter or NGO should understand it. And another one is about the facility and also the resource that support the farmer, because in some area the farmer cannot access to the water, so the government should have clear plan to support them in the long term if they want to change uh, to more rely on the water plants, such as coffee or some plant that need more water. And another one is the knowledge absorption. As you know that uh, any skill in good practice agriculture need the guidance, training, and also market network. So uh, to change from low skill farmers to high skill farmer, they need time to absorb the knowledge, and the mentor on, and also training for upskill for farmer is really really essential for them. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah. For the next step, I think SSL and ecosystems will continue to support the community enterprise to strengthen, especially governance, because the benefit sharing is very essential for them. Uh, in the past experience in Thailand, many community enterprise groups have this problem because they cannot manage the benefit sharing. So the governance and benefit sharing, business plan, and financial management is critical uh, for them to uh, leverage and upskill to more strong community enterprise in the future. And another one is we aim to establish a necessary and also community-led distribution training center, and also Changim standard that co-develop between farmers and also specialists uh, and also environmentalists in the area. And another one is we should identify and connect the community to reliable markets, because now some farmer they have no confidence to join us because they don't know where to sell the product and which price they can sell or not. So we have to link them to the reliable market and training opportunity that can upskill them, and if we have funding support from the government is good for them to make a more strong skill, and also the for term. This is a step that we successful and also coexist well. Okay, Juliana.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Bhichet. And that's it from us, actually. So great wrap up. But yeah, let us know if you have any questions about that, and I'll pass it back to you, Sanjay.
Yes, thank you so much. And yet again, I have some remarks, and these are very very interesting deliberations that you both have put together, and you have touch based the very interesting component of a community, the community engagements, and the coffee in particular, and the very interesting aspect of agroforestry, because in India, the government does have policies and laws and regulations around it, and it has been promoted, Well, the policy always promotes it, but on ground it could. So thank you so much for sharing these wonderful talks. And I would quickly move on to the next segment of our today's event, which is the question and answer session. And I would like to invite Ms. Monica Robel to take over the question and answer session. Before she takes over, I would quickly introduce her. So Ms.'s role at Zoological Society of London involves co-developing the design and prioritization of projects at ZSL with field teams, collaborating with internal and external experts, and the fundraising team to bring in the funds and communicate results on topics such as human-wildlife coexistence, community dialogue, and technical support for national parks. Drawing on management role in headquarters and field experience with a variety of international NGOs, supporting conservation efforts in Africa, Asia, and North America. Monica's experience was grounded in zoo and animal behavior, with a wide range of taxa for endangered species reintroductions and recovery projects through a master's in conservation biology and community-based research, tourism development, and habitat management. Monica has been a member of the IUCN SSC Asian Elephant Specialist Group since 2016. So welcome, Ms. Monica, and I would request you to take over. And before handing over to you, the forum, I would request audience once again to put your questions direct to a specific speaker, an expert, or else we can take a discussion to ask that question. So I would stop sharing my screen and I would request you to take it over.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Am I coming through?
Loud and clear.
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you to this forum and all our audience members for having us here as special guests, and it's been our pleasure to present. Also, I think our brains must be very, very full of comments and questions and thoughts from three very different talks, but all really relating to this idea of a three-pronged approach. Just as I head to questions as well, I think I want to say on behalf of the speakers, thanks to our donors, those have come before, and then most recently supporting our work in Thailand and Nepal, the UK government initiative, Darwin initiative. The Thailand project represents about a 3.5, 4-year project, and the Nepal a 5-year project. So a lot of complex issues to develop in one project in each of those countries, but I think our presenters have done well to reflect just what it was like to do the work, and also coming to points where we're looking at the results and the impact. I should also say on behalf of the speakers, thanks to the governments of Thailand and Nepal, of course, and the national park departments in each of those countries that have allowed us to do the work and have partnered with us to do the work. And of course, our thoughts and reflections, we would not say are on behalf of those governments, but on behalf of ZSL and Ecoexist. And of course, we've enjoyed the privilege of working with permissions to do the work. And of course, to say thank you to the community members for their time and wisdom to help find ways of better coexistence with, I think, audience here and participants are well versed in and also appreciate as well. I see one question in the chat, which came from Girishin Kerala. And I'm thinking either Bhichet or Juliana, you might want to take it. The question being, what are the initiatives of reestablishing lost elephant corridors? How effective might that be?
Bhichet, do you want to touch on this before I do?
You mean in Kerala or Thailand?
In Thailand.
In Thailand, it is in Thailand it is controversial right now because the issue about the community rights is quite strong, and also is drama in Thailand that from is quite in Thailand. So I think it's possible in the future, but we have to have more engaged and also go for the people and also for the corridor in between the Dong Hye and Khao Yai Eastern Forest. It is possible that now some population from east try to move up north, also from climate change to up north, Yai and Khao Yai population, and another one is in Western Forest from Salakha to also Tung Yai Nale Suan. The population right now in the presentation there in Thongpapum, you have seen the population there. The past 10 years, I also track this population. They move from Thongpapum and nearby Myanmar to Tung Yai Nale up north. So it is possible to reanalysis about the corridor for the elephant in the future, because right now in South Vietnam, the people also have the good attitude toward the elephant, because we have many conservation projects to help them to make it coexist. So I think the critical components to make an exception for corridor and make a coexistence between the human fan is about any option or any tools to help them to live safety and also get the benefit from conservation. So I think this two key main that we have to identify and also project to support in conservation. Yeah.
Just to explore that just a little bit further, I think Juliana had mentioned the dam, which has created a large reservoir. I think the movements of elephants have been for some decades now sort of changed as a result of that, as a result of settlement and yes, and then crop types and so on. So I think it's and what you've just said really is that it's sort of a moving target where elephants are moving and where the communities have tended to settle and farm and so on, as aside from those communities that were already there and living in and amidst protected areas. So it's a complex situation, I think, which you've just helped address. Great. Okay, follow-on question about invasive plants. Yes, and how Thailand is handling that issue. Any comments around sort of the effect of invasive? Bhichet, is that something that you want to keep talking on?
Yeah, for invasive species in Thailand, it's quite under study in Thailand, and also in Thailand right now, we try to eliminate invasive species, especially plant. I have low knowledge about this, but in park manager try to remove it from the habitat, national habitat. But in Thailand, we also grow some species, just like the grass that the food cattle around the conservation area to try to improve the habitat and also attract the elephant inside the forest and reduce the HEC around the community. So I think we scientists also concerned about this, but the practitioner also see that they want to implement any species that can attract the wildlife come back to the forest. So I think we can share experience together if I think yeah maybe have more experience about this. So I'm happy to exchange a little bit about this. Yeah.
I mean, certainly, and this is a really helpful forum, making contact and having follow-up discussions as well. So yeah, thank you for taking that question. I have a question here from the group in general, and this is to Liv and Shyam. The depredation insurance of the government will have the onus there, and the schemes, and we've seen a very great summary of the reluctance and some of the conditions that will be needed. Is there any merit to involve social organizations, philanthropists, with regards to finances and funds? And has the team kind of considered that? And even go so far as political parties putting such insurance in their political manifestos. So this is sort of about other stakeholders. I'm wondering if Liv and Shyam, you want to take on that question, those questions? And let me know
Thanks,
if I need
Monica.
to.
Yeah, I think certainly from the case studies that we've looked at and have spoken to people involved in those initiatives, I think when it comes to co-financing premiums, as is often the case, as I explained, most of the people who were affected by conflict can't afford to pay the premiums, and so some level of co-financing is normally required to make the scheme viable. And I think that would definitely include social groups, whether that's more like development focused organizations, for example. I don't see why those sorts of organizations wouldn't be targeted, because it's obviously providing a social benefit. And there are sort of a growing number of organizations that see the utility in insurance as a tool to promote resilience. And so we're definitely seeing more forward thinking on the development sector and their involvement in insurance, as a tool to promote resilience and things like that. So I think, yes, they would definitely be a place for those types of organizations within the development of these schemes. I mean, ultimately, we would want, or an insurance scheme should ideally have some level of financing from the actual policyholders or beneficiaries themselves. But obviously, we appreciate that's not necessarily going to be the case for human wildlife conflict insurance. So yes, most of the time we will be, or people who are developing these schemes will be needing to seek alternative finance. And yeah, those kind of organizations, I guess, will be important players possibly within the co-financing of these schemes. Can you just remind me of the second part of the question, Monica?
Yes, but before we even go into that, you had in your slides the term moral hazards, and I wonder if you might just explain what that means again, because the second question was political parties could put insurance in their political manifestos. Has this been considered? So I think, yes, considering moral hazards, as well as before politicians start leveraging this, for example, to help garner local support and so on, it's probably worth exploring that factor as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so the problem with moral hazards is, so typically when insurance is taken out, so car insurance or house insurance, the policyholder is a payout for damage is conditional on them carrying out some form of risk mitigation activity. So that might include locking your front door or locking your car. And the same principle should apply across all different types of insurance products. The problem with human wildlife conflict insurance is that it's very difficult to verify where that risk mitigation is taking place. So, for example, if you have a human wildlife conflict insurance product that is intended to protect or pay out on crop damage, you might want to ensure that any people who are benefiting from the scheme are implementing crop guarding measures, whether that's fencing or early warning systems, or possibly planting crops that might be suitable to conflict species. But as I said, these things are quite difficult to measure and verify. And so this is sort of one of the leading challenges within developing these types of scheme, is not only how do we verify that those risk mitigation practices are happening, but also it does put another onus and possibly a big financial burden on the people who are going to be receiving payouts to be protecting their crops. They might not have the financial means to erect fencing, for example. And so it's just another example where external support might be needed, whether that's through government-led human wildlife conflict mitigation programs, or whether it's from an NGO like ourselves, ZSL, supporting communities to implement these risk mitigation practices. And then just to touch briefly on the government question, I've not seen insurance specific within the countries that I have experience of their insurance or compensation initiatives, but certainly, we do see governments, talking about human wildlife conflict a lot more. I have probably seen it more in the African context. So, for example, the two countries that spring to mind are Gabon and Kenya, where governments can often have very different views on the management of wildlife to the previous government, for example, as has really been the case in Gabon. And so it might be that compensation would be probably more likely to be mentioned within a manifesto thought, but possibly as insurance approaches become more mainstream, they may make their way into manifesto promises as well. But yeah, it's not something I've seen happen so far, but I don't see that it wouldn't be included in the future in some of these countries.
Well, we could talk on and on, and you did cover some of these things, I'm sure, in the document that you were also referring to as being available. Yeah. Thank you. I think there's another one that sort of leads, and this would be for Bhichet and Juliana. If you can give some information on the percent of cropland in Thailand that has coffee, and if it's been studied with regards to the crop raids and coffee landscapes, and with other croplands. So just, yeah, whether Juliana and Bhichet want to sort of answer around coffee in general in Thailand.
Juliana first, yeah.
Sure. I mean, I don't have the percentages right off the top of my head. Coffee production, we do know that there is coffee being produced in northern Thailand. It doesn't really have that many wild elephants anymore. In our landscape, it does exist. Tongpapung doesn't have quite as much conflict as on the eastern side of Thailand, where coffee is not suitable for the landscape. So the eastern part of Kanchanaburi. But from engaging with farmers and talking with the farmers that we've talked to, generally the elephants do not would ask during the participatory engagement and the groups, crop elephants each, which ones tend to be kind of ignored. And coffee was one of the crops that generally the elephants didn't go for. Of course, this could change like anything, and this is one of the reasons why we do emphasize putting all eggs in one basket, right? Just relying on one single crop. So that's why we're trying to avoid even shift from cassava monocrop that would not actually be more helpful. Do decide to crop switch and start eating coffee all of a sudden, that would continue to put the farmers' livelihoods at risk. So our approach is more kind of this diversified strategy, thinking not just about, what are you growing, but what are the alternatives, and how could potentially, if elephants do decide to change what they're eating, that farmers can then adapt to that. So we haven't seen it for coffee yet in this landscape, but for example, down in Kuibury National Park, it's known that elephants have started eating rubber. And up in Kanchanaburi, that's not a problem yet. We do have rubber growing, and the elephants move through the rubber farms, but generally they don't really consume the rubber. But in Kuibury, they started stripping the bark and eating the rubber and damaging the rubber trees, causing a lot of problems with the local farmers there. So the thing is, the elephants can learn, elephants can adapt. So, this is something that I think we all have to keep in mind when we're implementing these sorts of projects. Bhichet, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Another point that we select a crop because it have a high price. We try to improve the quality to the 5 grade. We can increase for the benefit and the cost around 300%, right, Juliana? Yeah, that's benefit for the people that when they get it's at the lend money for them because they have also damage. They get this money and they can plant other species in the household, so they can get more option to adapt and resilient from the damage from elephant in the future. Yeah.
And I
So another point is that with if they plant a high income plants, they can reduce the farm size and they can manage to protect their farm effectively. Yeah.
And I noticed that in the talk, it did talk about looking at ginger and pepper and so on as other crops to explore. So one thing that follows on from that is maybe how your methodology of discussing those things with communities, so that this really was these were community-led choices, and maybe how you presented information just to sort of underscore that it wasn't a sort of either or choice, but that you had focus group discussions. Is that something that you want to just follow on a little bit about how you did that?
We try to engage also every member the community, and we have the method from SSL about the fairer. So we get consent first that this method this implementation is work, or you can go with us in the future, and if they agree with it, and okay, we can talk about the next step. And another thing for the community led is about try to have the room for discussion, not only our method to implement there, but we adjust the type or the step with the community. So it's like a co-design together in the step in detail. So we think that working together continuously with the committee it's like an upskill and also improve the knowledge of the committee. So the committee can lead in the future. So this is a concept that committee led. Now we also lead them, but have the room, have the space for them to improve the skill and knowledge, and in the future they can lead it.
Thanks, and thank you for raising the ZSL Fairer program, which is an acronym which includes characteristics such as being inclusive and reflective and so on. So it's a continuous type of dialogue that helps make sure a project is really community-led, not just community-based. So thank you for that, Bhichet. Maybe while you're still with us on screen, would you like to mention any interesting agroforestry policy that the Thailand government has or promotes, or was that sort of more born from the ground with partners in the program and communities themselves? Is there sort of an enabling agroforestry policy within Thailand at the moment that sort of opened the door for this type of work?
The question for me, right?
Yes, I mean, if there's an existing agroforestry policy or promotion by the Thailand government that has maybe helped this type of project go along, or was it more kind of ground up led from the partners and the communities themselves?
For Thailand right now, we have many spectrum for agroforestry project, right? From the Royal project, Royal project also have the project that support the community to try to shift to from monocrop or the plant that make a depth for them to more high income, and also try to diversify the plant species in the landscape. The Royal project also have the framework for just like a 1 hectare or 1 rai that they try to have the plan for food and the plan for the long-term income, like the long the standing tree for the household, and the species that can get a cash in the short term. It's like herbs and the vegetable. So it's like a more agroforestry for them. It's have the layer from the many species, and they also think about the income base for long term. This is the project is like to support agroforestry for the community. Yeah.
And sorry, you're getting the majority of the questions, Bhichet.
Yeah.
One other question that might be useful, I think, for the overall talk is whether the general consensus is that the elephant population in Thailand is increasing, stable, or declining for the last 4 to 5 decades. So what are the kind of currently what's the currently accepted viewpoint on the Thailand elephant population overall? Increasing, stable, declining, yeah.
Yeah. From now it's increasing from also the census from east, and also the outer area from Department of Wildlife and National Park, especially for the east. They have 8% for annuals increase from 400 individuals around that in around 5 years ago, and now it's about 700 or 800 individuals right now. And I think it's an underestimate in the East because they use the direct count to census the elephant population there. So in Khao Yai, they also increase in that landscape, in that forest complex, because they have this systematic survey and census from research and also scientific monitoring. So in the overview, now Thailand have increased elephant population in Thailand, and also I think it's also expand the range especially in East. They also have the baby inside the community right now, and stay inside the community, not go any where, and also not to go back to the forest right now. They just stay in the community forest, and in the nighttime they go to raid the crop in the communities. Yeah, and come back to the community forest again in the nighttime. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, as with, I'm sure a lot of people on this call, our longer term thinking is going to have to be beyond our 3-year program here. What sorts of things we might have to be thinking about conflict and conservation in these sites that we've been talking about and overall. I'm not suggesting that any of us have answers to that, but I think also very interesting to hear Juliana's report about in Kuiburi, elephants now stripping bark off rubber trees and things. So just seeing how behavior is evolving as well as things go forward. Yeah, so I see there's been some communication in the chat around early warning cameras and AI, and it seems to me these are still a work in progress. And then, yeah, whether the type of alarms and deterrents can be long lasting and so on. As we know, elephants do get habituated or switch, and yeah, mitigation also has to change.
One of those comments, Moni, if I can maybe just pop in.
That you're addressing.
Yeah, so yeah, sure. The question was around the effectiveness of AI-based alarm systems, referring to in India, there's an Anders system installed by WTI, but basically needs the alarms to be regularly, I guess, updated because the elephants habituate, which I think elephant habituation is something that we're all very familiar with. They're extremely intelligent. They habituate very rapidly to any sort of stimulation. So just to kind of clarify that the early warning systems that have been largely implemented in Thailand, including a prototype that Ecoexist has supported and ZSL are supporting in Kanchanaburi. These are all mainly more around alerting and supporting the Elephant Rapid Response Unit. So that's the either DNP, Department of National Park ranger teams, or the community-based rapid response teams. And these are teams of individuals, usually between 5 to 15 people, who respond to incidences and push the elephants back into the forest. So in this case, there is an actual system in which people are pushing the elephants back. So that does reduce the likelihood of habituation, because elephants are generally afraid of people. And so this is these early warning systems are mainly being placed around communities, around forests, in order to alert communities, alert the ERUs when the elephants kind of pass a threshold or pass through an area. And then the teams are able to then respond to that more quickly than if they were just, randomly patrolling around the community. So that's generally how it's been implemented. In terms of habituation, when we, surveyed some of the ERUs, they have mentioned that there is some concern that elephants are habituating to, some of the methods that are being used. However, there are also examples of, teams that have been pushing elephants back into the forest for years, using literally just sound and light. And the key for them is really just to be patient. nonviolent and to kind of gently move the elephants back into the forest. Because what we've seen in other landscapes where the teams are maybe more aggressive, they're using firecrackers, they're throwing things at the elephants. This can actually cause the elephants to become more aggressive and then become habituated more quickly, because then lights and sound doesn't work anymore, right? Now it has to be more aggressive methods, and it just becomes a cycle until eventually somebody gets killed or an elephant gets killed. So now there's kind of, we've been working together with the government, the DNP, with the local governments to actually support and train and try to standardize the methods of the elephant rapid response teams to ensure that the methods for pushing the elephants are both safe and non-violent, essentially, so that we do reduce the sort of cycle of aggression.
Thank you. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening in this chat as well have local experiences as well, thinking about that. I feel like we're coming to a natural conclusion in some of the questions, because these are very deep topics, could go on, but it's been wonderful to have the questions and this discussion within the time that we have. And also just to wrap up saying, I think, in our planning for our next work and carrying on and trying to be resources for both the Department of National Parks and also communities, we have intention to carry on the work and also bring into some of these more complex issues as well, of things like corridors and interiors of the protected areas being suitable habitat with sufficient food and water points and so on that we know Asian elephants need anyway, and a lot of our colleagues here in the call will also appreciate that. So yes, onwards we go in our next project planning while you wrap up all the hard work on these project aspects that you've summarized here today. But again, I think that's why Friends of Elephants are it's such a good forum for all of us to learn and also look back on past recordings and so on. So I just want to thank all the speakers, and if I can hand back to Sanjay and take my moderator hat off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. And I'm sure, I think the audiences who are present and they're still present. It's almost 2 hours or more than 2 hours. And I'm sure even the viewers which will look at the video, I must say, and I would like to summarize without taking a lot of time because we already passed 2 hours. I think it has been a very, very thought-provoking, very detailed, summarized presentation, which are obviously based on a lot of deliberation, hard work, I'm sure sleepless nights, burning the oils. And, and I would see that there are a lot of teams and people and stakeholders involved in the backdrop, Otherwise, such an inclusive program where I could see from all 3 talks, we could see that a lot of involvement of a lot of community members, stakeholders, and I must appreciate speakers that you had taken a time and effort to acknowledge and thank their involvement. So, so I would say, and you have touched base the very core of community. I would say the overall very technical aspect of conflict and the community engagement, and very importantly, the financial implication of compensation and sharing very, very exciting POC of such an insurance, So we as the audience, and I personally look forward to see the next stages of all these projects as well as the POC that you have presented today. And thank you so much. Thank you. I would like to thank you each and everyone, Dr. Bhichet, Ms. Olivia, Dr. Shyam, Kumar, Ms. Juliana, and obviously, last but not least, Ms. Monica for putting this together, getting us, I would say, with a lot of, I think, staying up late, sharing all the information that we needed to put this event together. So I thank you all the speakers, and I would like to thank you all the audiences to stay up late and go through this a special edition of Friends of Elephant. So with that note, I would like to wrap up today's event, and thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank you
all.
all for listening.
Thank you
Bye.
all.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.